Louis Shepard, and I'm the Chief Technology Officer for the Microsoft Institute.
What do you think are the conditions to develop the 2.0 technology, especially talking about government outside of the United States?
Well, it's a great question. I was just last week in Mexico on a trip organized by the U.S. State Department, where we met in Mexico City, but also in different provinces, including Juarez, which is a region, the most affected region by narco violence. And the government itself has had a difficult job of securing communities from violence brought by drug dealers. And so the State Department, working with NGOs and individual citizens and academics, brought a group of American technology leaders there to see if there were ways that social media could be used with a heavy Web 2.0 slant to it to allow individual people and NGOs to build more stable civic participation and to increase the element of trust between citizens and government authorities, which previously they've not seen as particularly trustworthy. So it's in the government's interest, not just in Mexico, but every other developing and developed nation, to develop trust and participation-based authority in a relationship, a new relationship with average people, with citizens. And there are ways that social networks are providing the channels for increasing communication and building that kind of trust outside of government. And so now I think there's a great opportunity in the future to have government and citizens rebuild new channels using new technology.
A bit, because so far everything seems to be local in Gov 2.0 initiatives. Do you see any space for a global initiative?
One thing that we've noticed since the election, though, and since President Obama took power, is that, and we had some of this discussed at this conference, the Gov 2.0 conference, it's a very different challenge to actually provide structure for official communication between government and citizen, inbound from the citizen to government and outbound from government to citizen, as opposed to the political world where things are really wild and wide open. So I think a lot of innovation is actually going to come from the bottom up, from the grassroots, and in political years here in the United States, and I know in many other countries where people have adopted some of these new technologies. During campaigns, there's a lot of innovation because there's nothing like politics for forcing creative new thinking about how to communicate among large numbers of people. So obviously, internationally, a lot of this is going to happen within democracies. There are particular challenges with authoritarian governments. Government in a situation like Iran, where the government has had to make some choices about what to do with open access on sites like Facebook. So during this spring's period before and during and after the elections in Iran, the government first closed off access to Facebook. Then, however, it was interesting that the government actually reevaluated and reopened access to Facebook, but also itself did a lot of governmental creation of sites and pages and groups on Facebook in order to try and use Facebook for its own purposes as a means of getting an official point of view across, and to use it as another means of expressing, official Iranian government positions on international issues and so forth. So there's a balance and a trade-off for even authoritarian governments. They can't completely close themselves off from the world. China, the People's Republic of China, sees the phenomenon all the time of YouTube videos being created with cell phones and mobile devices like this, videos being posted on YouTube out of Chinese provincial regions where the government really has no clue, and before they can react in a nimble, quick way, the stuff is already up and around the world. So I think what we're going to see internationally is a lot of activity out of both democratic nations and nations under great populist strain and stress. And then we're also going to see a lot of innovation from something that's going on now that we don't spend a lot of time on at conferences like this, but multinational corporations trying to save money by using new forms of communication through social media and so forth within their own international structure. Microsoft does this a lot. We use a lot of, instead of having everybody fly around the world and use up carbon emissions like crazy, we use a lot of online communication for collaborative meetings. With multinational corporations moving to a state where they no longer feel like they have a single headquarters nation or city, Microsoft feels like in some ways Microsoft feels like a multinational conglomerate itself. I mean,